something that popped up late last night that has direct relevance to the National Football League and the Houston Texans. A lawsuit supposedly filed by a prominent Houston lawyer on behalf of a masseuse who, according to the lawyer, Tony Busby, contends that Texans quarterback Deshaun Watson went too far during a massage. Now, we haven't seen the lawsuit. The lawyer claims, and he spoke to Fox 26 in Houston, that it was filed. Deshaun Watson has addressed it on social media. Tony Busby has addressed it on social media. I want to see the actual civil complaint.
Yeah.
I want to see the paperwork that initiates the process because, look, and we'll talk about some of the strange facts surrounding this lawyer's connection to the Texans and different reasons to look at this and wonder what's going on. But, Chris, once there is a document appropriately filed and stamped and the process initiated in civil court in Texas, whether state or federal, once that document's filed, there's a piece of litigation that must be dealt with. And the allegations that are reduced to writing and signed by a duly licensed attorney who presumably would like to keep his or her license, those allegations must be dealt with in a process that is very simple. There's a complaint. The complaint is answered. At some point, the judge gets involved and issues a scheduling order. There's a discovery process where people are questioned. Documents are exchanged. It hinges in many respects on how aggressive or creative the lawyers are in seeking the information. Sometimes you get a creative and smart lawyer involved. You put the other side in a corner, and there's no way out. It's a chess match. And then you go to trial eventually if the case doesn't settle. And this is something that can last a year, 2 years. It just depends on how quickly the justice system moves and how motivated the parties are. But once this is filed, it's real.
Yeah.
Now, I say that because we've yet to see any evidence it has been filed.
Right.
But once it is filed, it's real. And once it is filed, it has to be dealt with. And Deshaun Watson, Chris, decided last night to deal with it by addressing it, disclosing it. That's how I became aware of it.
Yeah.
Disclosed it on social media. That's a daring and calculated ploy to take the initiative from a PR standpoint. But the bottom line is this. We haven't seen the lawsuit. Once the lawsuit's filed, it is real and it has to be dealt with. And no amount of public denials by Deshaun Watson will make it go away. It has to be dealt with and made to go away within the confines of the legal system. And that's a process that isn't resolved by simply saying, I disagree with these allegations. There's a lot more to it than that.
No, I mean, obviously, there is a lot more to it, and I don't want to rush to judgment on either side here or anything like that. But, I mean, again, Deshaun Watson, I don't blame him for getting out in front of this thing a little bit to just put out a statement like that. Either way, his name is going to be smeared here over the next 24, 48 hours. So he's letting it be known where he stands on the situation, how he sees it. And, good for him in that, aspect. But again, like you said, we'll see where this goes. It does just it smells fishy, and I'm not trying to be insensitive or anything like that. I'm not, but I don't know.
There are fishy.
There's fishy signals here. That's all there is.
Right. But here's the reality. At the end of the day, is there a masseuse who is claiming and will testify under oath that there was something that happened? We don't know that yet. We don't know what's going on here until there's an actual lawsuit filed. And once the lawsuit's filed, it doesn't mean you accept as true the allegations that were made. That just is the first step in framing out the issue that goes forward. And there's all shapes and sizes and sorts of civil lawsuits, whether it's sexual assault, whether it's breach of contract, whether it's wrongful termination of employment, whether it's a business dispute between two major companies. The civil justice system is used for all sorts of things. But once that document's filed, the system doesn't care who's telling the truth or who isn't. They'll figure that out at the end. They got a process for that. It's a jury trial. The point is, once it's filed, once it's real, it's not something that just magically goes away. Look at what Antonio Brown's been dealing with since September of 2019. The lawsuit for civil lawsuit for sexual assault and rape in Florida. And people think that your only avenue when something like this happens is the criminal justice system, Chris. You don't have to take it to
Sure.
the police. You don't
Right.
have to try to get someone prosecuted. You can pursue this route instead. Now, it creates skepticism.
Well, that seems like what
Why
happened,
didn't you,
right?
Why didn't you go?
Yeah.
Why didn't you go to? Yeah. Why didn't you know? So why didn't you go to the police? You're going straight to court.
you're gonna
And again,
ask-
we don't know any of the specific allegations yet.
Right.
But Deshaun Watson's the one who chose to put this on our radar screen. That, to me, is significant.
Yeah, well, I think, he probably realized he's a pretty smart guy from what we know and have seen of him in the past. He knows he's a franchise quarterback. He's one of the stars of the NFL. And he probably realized that this was about to become a story, whatever else, and he's going to let, his side out a little bit. But, again, like, when do you expect the paperwork to be filed after something like this? And you think it's already in the process here at this point?
Well, the way the lawyer spoke in the
Right.
comments that he gave to Fox 26, it suggested in the headline on the Fox 26 website, didn't imply it. It said the lawsuit was filed.
Yeah.
So it's a public document that it should be out. It should be available.
Okay.
This all popped up just before midnight last night. First order of business for me, as soon as we're done today, try to get my hands on this document and see what it says, or confirm that it hasn't been filed if there is no such filing. We don't even know the name of the person making the accusation. Sometimes these cases are filed under a Jane Doe or a John Doe type of a name for privacy reasons. But that's, to me, I've got a lot of questions that I need to try to resolve after we're done. I just want to see that there's a lawsuit, and I want to see what it says.
Right. But the next thing I just wanted to ask you, because I figure you know a lot better than me for sure, how rare or not rare is it where you get a case like this, right? Maybe the suit hasn't been filed yet or anything, and the lawyer, the accuser, make a demand for money before they even go to that how rare or
very common.
It's very common to always go to the guy.
Extremely common.
Hey, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna file this. Pay us this money, or we will file it. That's commonplace with these type of things.
I wouldn't say always.
Yeah.
But there's nothing unusual about the comment made by Deshaun Watson that the plaintiff's lawyer claims this isn't about money, but before filing suit, he made a baseless six-figure settlement demand, which I quickly rejected. That is not uncommon. Now, if it was six-figure, and some people are looking at it saying, well, if it's only six-figure, how big of a deal can it be? Well, we don't know what the factual allegations are.
Yeah.
You don't just make 7- and 8-figure settlement demands willy-nilly.
Right.
You want to have it based on something, but it's not uncommon to make a demand letter. It's one of the first things they teach in law school, how to write a demand letter to inform a defendant or that defendant's lawyer that there is a potential piece of litigation that will be filed, and it can be avoided if the case is resolved. Now, there's a fine line, Chris, between that and the concept of extortion. And in many ways, that entire pre-suit process of negotiating or trying to negotiate a settlement is legal extortion. We're in the period of legal tampering. That is legal extortion. There are claims you can make. There are things you can say. Now, you better be ready to back it up. You can't just say, hey, I'm going to sue you on behalf of my client if you don't pay us a bunch of money, and then there's no client or no lawsuit.
Right.
Then you got a problem. So you're on thin ice if you don't have something to back that up. But presumably there will be a lawsuit. If there's no lawsuit ever filed, then this Tony Busby's got himself one hell of a mess. And again, that's one of the questions I have. Has this lawsuit been filed, and why would he create the impression that it has been if it hasn't been? And sometimes what happens is the more successful a lawyer is, the more established, the more powerful, the more people the lawyer knows, you can get a little drunk on that. You can get a little reckless with that. And you can maybe take some liberties because you think you're untouchable or no one's going to mess with you, or you can get – and I'm not saying he's done that. It's just part of my curiosity.
Yeah.
Just part of my –
I hear
very,
you.
very curious.
How curious
about the –
How good is the
ahead.
relationship between Busby and the owners of the Texans? I'm curious of that. I mean that's I mean there is some common there, right? Or some common place there. I wonder about all these things. And again, I don't want to sound insensitive in any way. If Deshaun Watson did something, then damn him, and he needs to be better. And I'm not going to just forgive him. I'm not saying that, but it just seems weird.
We're a long way from knowing whether he did anything.
Yeah, right.
A long way from knowing whether he did or didn't do anything.
Yeah.
We don't even know who the person is
Yeah.
that's making the claim. But the connection with the lawyer and the McNairs. Tony Busby was or is a neighbor of the McNairs, and 7 years ago, Tony Busby put up this big billboard trying to get the Texans to draft Johnny Manziel, and he's actually proud of that. I don't know that I'd be proud of advocating that anyone draft Johnny Manziel 7 years after the fact, but look, people are suggesting that some way, somehow, the Texans and the lawyer are in cahoots. And if you're trying to keep Deshaun Watson, I don't know that this is the way to do it.
No.
Right?
Definitely.
But if you're convinced that Deshaun Watson's never going to play for you again and you're pissed off about it,
yes, I'm
not saying that they would deliberately do it. But if you've got somebody out there that feels this friendship, kinship with the McNairs, and somebody just happens to trip into his office making this allegation, you may be more inclined to embrace it because, hey, Deshaun Watson has made it his mission to crap on the Texans and get out of town, and this is our way of exacting some vengeance before he's even traded. And I don't say our, meaning the Texans are directly involved. But this Tony Busby may think that he's doing them some sort of a favor that they may not want because they haven't traded him yet. This is the kind of thing that can affect his trade value. It's like, hey, Tony, we appreciate the effort. We appreciate that you care about us, but, we still haven't traded this guy. Let's not go guns blazing after Deshaun Watson until we have a deal in place to trade Deshaun Watson. So there's a clumsiness to it. If there is any sort, and I'm not saying there is, this is part of what we're going to try to figure out, any sort of direct or indirect connection, it's clumsy and it's misguided and it doesn't necessarily help the Texans because now whoever would trade for Deshaun Watson and would be making this decision in a compressed time frame where you got other quarterback options for 2021, now they got something else they got to deal with. They got to get down to the bottom of this rabbit hole and figure out what's there or what's not there with this litigation because if you trade for Deshaun Watson, you're buying whatever this becomes, and right now we don't know what it's going to become.
No, we don't know what it's going to become, and these are the kind of things that scare teams away and do that. I mean, it's crazy. The timing of all of it, Deshaun Watson, again, I'm not saying that just knowing a guy or the appearance or meeting him, but man, I have never met a nicer guy. And that doesn't mean I've met other nice guys that fooled me before. I understand. I mean, yes.
I think here's what you're trying to say is there is absolutely nothing that either of us have heard about
or seen or anything. Exactly.
To have any reason to believe that he would do something like this. That's a fair comment to make.
Okay,
and that comment has been made about others in the past who have ultimately been proven to have done something they shouldn't have done.
That's right.
So we don't know. Yep. We're in no position to know. I want to see the lawsuit. Yep. I want to know what the allegation is. And the problem is, and what happens is when you're the one who's been sued, there's a frustration that immediately kicks in because you especially if you know you did nothing wrong.
Right.
You, number one, want to shout it from the rooftops, which he's done. And number two, you want to hit fast forward. You want this to be over. You want your name to be cleared. And it gets frustrating because you don't get your name quickly cleared.
Definitely
There's a process that you submit to, and you have to accept the fact that until we get to the end, there's going to be this cloud. And the problem is the court of public opinion, you're going to have people who jump to conclusions.
That's the biggest problem.
Well, the allegation's been made, it must be true.
Yeah.
Or you have to believe every allegation that's ever made until there's proof to the contrary. Well, no, that's not how the system works. And so this is a problem for Watson. It's a problem for the Texans. It's a problem for anyone that wants to trade for him. And, the league has a personal conduct policy that I know sometimes it feels like enforcing. Sometimes it doesn't feel like enforcing. The consistency isn't there the way that it should be. But this is something that they can't ignore either, to the extent that they are sitting back and waiting to see what happens with the Antonio Brown sexual assault claim, investigation, litigation. They need to, at a minimum, be gathering information and monitoring this. They have the same questions that we have.
Yeah.
Let's see the lawsuit. Let's see what the allegations are. And one thing that flowed from the Ray Rice incident from 7 years ago, Chris, the NFL will set up its own parallel track of investigation and discipline if it deems that discipline is necessary. Part of it, too, is how motivated is this alleged victim? Will she cooperate with the NFL the way Ezekiel Elliott's alleged victim, actual victim, whatever the proper term is? The NFL decided he did something that the court system never decided he did. But that's part of this, too. And when the NFL decides to create its own in-house justice system and a claim like this is made, the question becomes, are you activating, NFL, your in-house justice system? That's a fair and obvious question given the things the NFL's done in the past in cases that are like this one.
Yeah, I mean, I would expect, like you, they're going to wait and see how this unfolds a little bit, see some of the paperwork, gather a little more evidence. But, man, I mean, the Texans, what an offseason. I don't know what to say. Holy cow. Just total soap opera, page 6 dysfunction. It's just one thing after another. It really is. It's unbelievable. And, the other thing, too, the thing where I think Deshaun Watson, and again, if we see that he's guilty of this, you'll hear me, stick it to him if that's the case. But I know. But I'm just saying.
It's premature to even suggest.
Okay, well, either way, his name will never be cleared from these things. That's where it's tough for football players and a quarterback especially. It'll never be cleared. There's going to be some people that'll have their name made up. Yeah.
Time out.
Yeah.
If there is something fishy, if the fishy sense, like just this is weird, this is odd.
Yeah.
If there's anything there, and he's represented by capable and competent and smart lawyers, there are devices for exposing that it's all a load of crap. There are devices for doing it.
Yeah,
it's not going to be cheap for him to do it. He's going to be paying somebody by the hour to do it.
Right.
But we don't know where the facts are going to take us. To a certain extent, you just got to sit back and see where the facts take you. And presumably Tony Busby has someone who sufficiently convinced him that something happened. Now, the problem is maybe he's too close to this. Maybe he's upset with Deshaun Watson. Maybe he's trying to help the McNairs. Again, these are a bunch of maybes. Sometimes your judgment gets clouded if you're thinking, hey, I got a potential tiger by the tail here.
Right.
And you don't apply the same scrutiny and level of questioning. And you don't trust that little voice that's telling you something's not right here. So sometimes things get glossed over. And then once the case moves forward, let's say once your client ends up being questioned under oath and it's all one big giant mess of the person running around in circles and not answering questions and it doesn't hold together, that's when you know you got a problem. So these are all things to be determined.
Yeah.
But there are ways, Chris, to depending upon where the facts take us, there are ways that Deshaun Watson could expose this as being a big sham. This is just one of the possibilities on the radar screen. It could be 100% true, it could be 100% false, and it could be 100% false plus the product of some effort with improper motive to make Deshaun Watson look bad. And with the right counsel and the right approach, you can show that it was all baloney, that in theory that could happen.
All right, well, we'll see where it goes. That's all I got to say. I don't have anything more to dive into it unless there's some other interesting angles you want to talk about, and I'll listen and ask you questions. But I get scared talking about these subjects sometimes. I'm not going to lie. Pull back the curtain. I get scared. I don't know what the hell to say sometimes. I don't want to get myself in trouble, get you in trouble, or anything.
You're doing fine. You've learned.
All right.
You've learned. And you ain't getting me in trouble. I'm not a ventriloquist. You own your own words there, Christopher. But you're 40 now. You know how to do these things. You know how to handle yourself. You've learned. Look, and it's a serious topic. We had the brief conversation before the show started. We want to talk about football, but how can we ignore something that Deshaun Watson himself injected into my consciousness? I didn't know anything about this
I know.
until I see Deshaun Watson's tweet. So he wants us addressing it. He wants us sharing his statement, which we did. And I'd like to think he appreciates that we have been fair and even-handed in trying to explain how this works. And I can understand the frustration he's feeling today because he would like to be able to go to the end of the process and have the ruling that he did nothing wrong if he truly believes in his heart that he did nothing wrong. All right.
I got a lot of conspiracy theories on that one. That just
listen, there's reason to have questions.
Right.
And those questions need to be explored. And I guarantee you I'm going to explore all of them. And I'm going to start as soon as we sign off in about 1 hour and 39 minutes from now.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.